Hi, we're Tor and Robin from Leprous, and you're listening to Rock
FM.
Hi guys,
Hello.
welcome to Romania again.
Thank you.
Very much.
This is not your first rodeo here.
Definitely not.
How do you like playing for the Romanian public?
A lot. It's always been a good market for us, and the crowds are always great here. So yeah, we love coming back. Only one show here this tour, then though not enough, in my opinion. Yeah.
I think we played this venue actually 13 years ago. That was the first time we ever played in Romania, and I think almost every year since we've been back, or I guess 10 times or something. It's been So we have a thing for Romania, and we love to come back.
We love to have you here. You wrote Aphelion back in 2021, and I was wondering how did you manage to write such an intriguing album during a time that was very unsure in the creative industries?
Well, we didn't really plan to create an album. We just I think we had we talked we had a band call or something the day after the lockdown, and then we figured okay, let's do something, and we had some songs that were unfinished from some early recordings and stuff, so okay, let's just finish them and see what. So we were planning to just do a couple of songs and release them, but then some more songs arise. Someone had an idea, and we went to the studio, we recorded this song, and then suddenly we had 6 songs, and then I think it was Einar who was what if we just do an album? And then we did, and I guess it was kind of therapeutic or something. We felt our world kept going a little bit more than everything stopped, so it was nice to have something to work on. But it wasn't a planned album at all. It just happened because we tried to stay busy throughout the lockdown.
We were planning to have an EP between the Pitfalls and the next album, and then as you said, we had a lot of time on our hands, so suddenly we had several more songs, so then we ended up and those 3 last songs that kind of made it into an album, and then in the end we figured out why not do this last song together with the fans, which kind of completed the entire album.
There was a big chance this would not end up on the album though, because we had no idea how that would turn out, but it turned out pretty good.
How was this experience with the fans? It's very interesting. I've never heard of a band writing songs with fans.
The scariest moment of my musical career, seriously, I wasn't gonna quit the band, but I was talking to my girlfriend. I was I have to quit. I can't do this. I was so nervous because it's being creative is kind of vulnerable, You have to be able to let yourself suck, kind of. If you try to play good, you can't be creative. You can't make anything new, So yeah, I was terrified.
The fact that you were terrified helped the process a little bit, because I remember it was 10 minutes before we kind of started the stream, then you were just sitting with your guitar. It's okay, I think maybe I have to kind of have something to start with, and then you're okay, I have this one thing, maybe I can start with that. And that's actually how the main part of Nighttime Disguise.
I was in the amp room jamming, trying to see maybe I come up with something, and Einar came in actually while I was playing the main riff. I didn't think that it was so cool, but he was yeah, this is good. And then I was okay, we have something to start with, and then we did,
kind of a lot of random stuff that ended up being this album, I guess. Which is fun. A different way of making an album.
I read somewhere about your experience re-recording these songs that you had planned for the EP initially, that didn't make the cut for Pitfalls, as you said before. Actually, you said that you fell in love with the studio, with working in the studios, and I was wondering, how does the environment that you work in impact your creative process?
Well, especially on the songs that we made in the album, in the studio. Those are definitely affected a lot more on just being in the studio, and as Robin mentioned, just sitting there with the amps, and kind of you get the feedback so directly, and also being there together with the band members. The reason we kind of started to do this live in the studio was because we, for some various reasons, we made the song called Castaway Angels, actually trying to fix one of the other 4 songs, and then we realized, no, let's just make this another song. And then so that was a very nice experience, recording that live in the studio. And then we had one day extra, so okay, let's try to just make another song then. No pressure though, not like the stream. And then we made All the Moments, so then suddenly we had 6 songs. So it's just being in the studio kind of made us do this creative thing that we probably wouldn't have done anyway. I would sit at home watching some series or something. So it's kind of a nice thing to be in the studio. Although that being said, just as you mentioned, it wasn't necessarily the EP wasn't supposed to be the songs that didn't make the cut for Pitfalls. It was more meant we already chose a few songs that we were actually very happy with for Pitfalls, but we just decided because we wanted to have this one thing in between Pitfalls and the next release. So we also wanted some strong songs there, and I remember, like for instance, "On Hold" was one of those songs, and that was like I really liked that song to begin with. So I definitely didn't feel that it didn't make the cut, but that would make a pretty big or a good thing to have on that kind of EP. But then we also changed a lot on what happened to the other songs. So definitely, I would say the songs were very much better off by the fact that we didn't release them right away and that we had such a long time to kind of rethink stuff.
The studio is also especially Ocean Sound that we spent a lot of time is very like remote, which makes it like there is no neighbors, there is nothing else to do around, which makes it like when you're there you have basically 24 hours a day. You're in the studio, there's nothing else to do, which is kind of nice too. I feel like helped shape the songs, like because we were like in the middle of the night, like we don't sleep early. We were jamming out, and like you have all the time in the world, no impressions from the outside. So that way also I think like we really did fall in love with that studio, Ocean Sound, especially, at least me, I did. Yeah.
It wasn't only like constructive stuff either. I remember they were a bit angry with us when we were jamming to AC/DC in like 9 in the morning. After we had been like sitting tracking guitars the entire night, and then everyone was shut the fuck up again. They were like doing vocals or something the next day, and we were just trying to get the guitars ready, and we celebrated by playing AC/DC or something.
Last year, the main topic that everybody around the music industry was talking about was trying to creatively survive lockdown. And this year, the main topic is covering this whole boom in the music industry. How has this whole new era, I would say, of musical activity and concerts and all of these crazy things that are going on in the music industry impact your creativity?
Creativity is hard to say because we haven't really been in a creative space since we released Aphelion. It's like creative touring, so like we haven't really started writing our next album yet. But we can definitely tell that the market is quite meta. Saturated. Yeah, that there's a lot of tours going on, and like we play a city and there's suddenly 3 other shows in the same genre kind of. But like we've been lucky enough to have our fans show up still. We've had the most successful tour that we've ever had, and some venues have disappeared maybe. Venues have started taking way bigger merch cuts, trying to steal the artists' money to survive themselves, not realizing they need us to survive as well.
The musicians are the last ones to get a pay raise, and everything else just increases, like travel expenses and bus rentals and fuel and flights and equipment, and everything is so much more expensive. Everyone wants a cut of everything, so in the end it's just kind of the musicians ending up with the last ones to kind of be able to kind of increase anything. I think maybe it's also kind of in our nature, because we don't really start to do this for the money, and then after a while you just realize, well, now I feel like everyone else is just like like living a kind of with a more bigger income, and then we have to kind of, I guess we should try to follow. We don't really know how to though, but but then again I feel like we've like regarding these creative things during the pandemic, I felt like we managed to pull through pretty well with all this. We did a lot of live streams. So that's kind of also something that made us kind of survive through the pandemic without having to do just a lot of other stuff outside the music. And I also feel quite proud that we managed actually to, like looking back, we actually completed a full tour in both 2020 and 2021 and 2022, like 2 big tours. So like through the pandemic, we actually managed to do kind of normal stuff, even though it was really, really strange times. Yeah, and it kind of paid off. I mean, the chances of going on tour while the lockdowns were still around kind of made us more exclusive. So there was a lot of people coming to our shows because there wasn't that many shows to go to. But then also some shows were cancelled because suddenly the country decided to lock down, and yeah, we've spent so much money on doing COVID tests on like 20 people on random airports here and there, and it's like the financial thing. I just have to close your eyes to, but then the success of of the result of like the people coming in, and I think we've benefited from that now on this tour.
We are banned through COVID actually, which I did not really expect. But like with all the live streams and stuff, especially in the US, I've heard a lot of people say like, yeah, we found you guys during the pandemic, during the live streams and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, I think it was a good thing to do, and also it kept us sane, you know, like just seeing each other playing some music, like okay, we still have a band, and there will still be a life after this. So.
And I think especially the two tours we did in the States last year was a very good example of this, how the market changed, because we were one of the first to start touring, I think, or at least when we did that tour, a lot of bands our size decided to cancel their tours and postpone them, and that tour was like a super good one for us, and then we came back like half a year later on a tour that was supposed to be a lot bigger, but then that ended up with like as Robin mentioned, it was like the same time as so many other tours, because everyone that postponed their tours earlier in the spring kind of suddenly went out, so it was almost impossible to get travel. So it was very saturated. So it's nice to see now that there's a balance, because now going back like on this European tour we're on now, which is going very well, that's nice to know, to be back into some more normal.
And it sure is nice for us concert goers to finally have this whole pool of choices, of music choices, after so many years of being locked inside of the house.
Definitely.
Yeah. And my last question for you guys is, what advice would you have for upcoming metal bands that are just starting now?
Lower your expectations. I mean, at least that goes for. No, in general, I mean, you gotta be willing to grind it out. To be honest, it's like it's not gonna happen overnight, especially not in our genre. Maybe in pop and I don't know, hip hop and stuff. But like in the rock genre, you just have to play, tour, make music. If it doesn't happen on the first album, make another one. You know, it's not like really a. I don't have like a quick fix advice. It's just like, you know, you have to be able to not sleep a lot. You have to be all the cheapest, earliest flights. You know, it's like it's not comfortable, at least for the first 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you see how we did it, you could just do the same. You just start a band, and then 22 years later, you can play here. It's like we've had such a super slow build. Like we started in 2001. Just as a youth band, and then 2010 was our first like tour, and then we played here on a support tour, and then we've been like touring I think 15-16 times in Europe since then, and very, very slow build every time, and now we're kind of back to where we started here, but now finally as the headliner though, so that's nice.
Maybe also I would say invest if there is any money. There probably won't be in the start, but whenever you make money, it's also like invest that money in your show. Like don't try at your first chance to like, oh, we can afford to pay ourselves now, because that you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like then use that money to rent lights or a sound engineer, you know, like invest in your show basically.
We were in a deficit as a band for the first 17 years of the band, so just the recent years we've actually been able to make a living out of this, so now it's worth it. Definitely.
Well, congratulations on your long and interesting career, and thank you so much. I hope you have a lot of fun on stage, and lots of luck. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.